Okay, so have you ever played Sims but thought to yourself, man, these Sims do not listen to what I tell them to do. I'm so annoyed I wish I could inflict speakable horrors upon them? What if I told you there is a game where you can do that and more? A game that even at its peak still went under the radar for most people. But how did you learn about it, I hear no one asking? Well, let me tell you a little story. A long time ago, computers used to have this ancient device called CD reader. Now, the issue people who created this had was that now they had to create something that they can read. So they created CDs. And while CDs that contain music and movies could be found in normal places like HMV and Blockbuster, you fill the gaps in for American counterparts. The people who added games on them didn't want to be boring, and so they added them to cereal boxes or attached them to gaming magazines as a reward for reading them. Now, I don't actually know if this was the same in other countries, but I imagine it was. In Romania, we had this gaming magazine called Level, and whilst the contents of it were interesting at the time, we are not here to discuss that. We are here to discuss what they had to offer for each magazine every month. A free full game. And whilst there were a lot of weird ones thrown out there like Black Mirror, wait, no, not that Black Mirror, that Black Mirror, or Massive Assault, looking back at it, there were quite a few amazing picks. We had games such as Psychonauts, Prince of Persia, and Splinter Cell back to back. We even had Eastern Europe's version of Elder Scrolls, called Gothic. But amongst these games there was a hidden gem, Ghostmaster. And that is how I found out about it. I'm quite curious though, for the only other individual watching this that knew about this game, how did you find out about it? Especially if you're from America, let's say. The company that created this was an Oxford-based company called Sick Puppies. Their first game was a PlayStation game in 2003 called Pipe Dreams. And this name is quite ironic if you ask me, as the company shut down not long after being created due to the publisher being disappointed with their sales. But you know what's wild? They were not disappointed by their sales for Pipe Dreams. No, that one was okay. They were disappointed with their next and final game, Ghostmaster, and I'm honestly not sure what made it not be successful. If you ask me, it had everything it needed to be successful. And so this Halloween, I'm taking it upon myself to show the world a game that could have been, in my opinion, standing next to giants such as 2 Point Hospital, I guess? And I'm not the only one trying to resurrect this game. A company called Mechano Story Studio is doing the proper heavy lifting here. As the original game came out in 2004, playing it nowadays would prove quite difficult as it has quite a few performance issues. I don't know if I could have done this video by showing you a game on a 4:3 aspect ratio with less pixels than my script has so far, but I won't have to show you the game like that. Since I first played it, I remember checking every few years or so if there were any chances of a sequel, and without fail, every time I'd get disappointed. I feel like after almost 20 years I basically lost hope. But in 2024, out of nowhere, the game got a remaster version. And so that finally brings us to actually explaining what the game has to offer. Why did I call it the Unknown Sims game? Unless I change the title and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Well, you know how in Sims you get to control the people and ask them to do something only for them to completely ignore it and do something else. The developers of this game thought of a brilliant way to avoid that from ever happening. By completely removing the ability to control the people. Because in this game, you don't play as the Sims characters. You play as ghosts instead. And we have ghosts for every preference. I want to not preface because I've talked a lot already, I guess. I want to face this by saying I won't spoil or show too much of the game because I think it's worth playing and discovering it yourself. Now you have ghosts such as the Casper looking ones, you have poltergeists, you have elemental types, banshees, and so on. Great, but what do you do with these ghosts?
Everyone must be driven away in terror.
Well, the goal of the game for the most part is to scare the pesky humans away. You start each level by selecting the ghosts you want to have in your party. The selection stage is quite important because the game requires strategical thinking, so you need to see the layout of the level in order to check what ghosts you want to have in your party. And it's great because the developers of this resurrected version added something that did not exist in the original game. And then they made it completely pointless. At least at the time of making this video. So before you start, you get 2 minutes to investigate the level. Nice addition. However, how am I supposed to see anything but the top part of the level? The houses usually have at least 2 different levels, if not 3, and you only allow me to see the rooftop. I swear, it's missing the button that allows you to move between levels that actually exists when you get to play. Anyway, you start every level with a limited amount of, let's call them spooky points. The more you scare people, the more spooky points you gather. Every ghost has different abilities you can use, with each ability costing different amounts of spooky points. There's different types of abilities as well. Some are meant to terrorize people, some are meant to bring them to complete madness, and others don't have a direct impact. For example, you have an ability that can make people be fascinated with a specific room or a specific object your ghost is assigned to, because of course you can't just assign Casper to an electric appliance, you silly. That's for gremlins. You can only assign Casper to an inside room, you can only assign poltergeists to children, and you can only assign elementals to elements. Even the other side needs order. I think they were really inventive with the abilities. Of course you have the basic ones like making yourself visible to the human eye for a few moments or creating footsteps. But then they also have physics-based powers, which I'll talk about in a second. One of the most interesting aspects of this game is the puzzles you need to complete in order to unlock new ghosts. Almost every level has different ghosts that are stuck and you need to help them escape. And again, I'll give you only one example to not spoil the fun. In one of the early levels you have this jar that contains a brain connected to the eyes. The ghost stuck to it explains how they were chopped up and used for illegal research. In order to release them, you will need to break that jar. And there's multiple ways you could approach this. You could get an earth elemental and just cast a power that shakes the ground. That's gotta do it. But it's not the only way. You could make someone fascinated by the jar enough to pick it up and then just scare them away as they are holding it, which makes them drop it. Or I guess you could just make the objects in the room float around, which would also break the jar. I don't know if the ability Kinesis would work. Future me, could you please fact check me? Thank you. But this is what I mean about physics-based powers. Your ghost powers actually interact with the world in a meaningful way. And I love this about the game. And also hate it sometimes. It's unavoidable. Sometimes you will get frustrated because you just can't get that one person needed in that specific spot. Just get over there, stop going in random places. Ah, the Sims experience again. Anyway, you scared all the people away, great job. As a reward, here's some... spookier points. You can use these spookier points at your base of operations to purchase additional powers for your ghosts. Now they'll see the true terror. You know who's not going to see true terror though? You. Because sure, this might be a spooky game, but instead of being scared, you'll just be absolutely grooving. And I am fully aware I say this about a lot of games, but this one is no exception. The music in it is absolutely fantastic. Sure, the people you scare might be going through their worst imaginable fears. Which, by the way, a hint if you're going to play this is that you can check everyone's fears. Wait, let me switch to the human's POV to show you what I mean. Imagine being a human in this house. Spiders randomly appearing from the ceiling, objects in the house floating, and all the while Shrek decides to make an appearance as well, only to split himself in half because reasons. But you won't feel their fear. You'll be too busy jamming. I can fully imagine Jack Skellington dancing to these tunes. Oh shoot, I forgot to talk about the story of the game. Oh shoot, the developers forgot to add a story to the game. No, seriously, don't go into this expecting a good story. Or a story at all, to be fair. It technically has an overarching story, but I feel like it's as if I would say Monopoly has a storyline. However, if you're a fan of Ghostbusters, I think there is something here that you will definitely enjoy. Again, I won't spoil it. There's probably a lot of references I didn't get as I've never watched Ghostbusters, so maybe if you play it, you can come back and tell me what you found. One huge warning I need to give is that at the moment the Resurrected game has quite a few bugs. Some even level-breaking ones. I've been checking the forums and the community is quite active. The developers even ask people to tell them about the bugs they encounter. So I believe they are actively working on fixing them. And whilst there were some level-breaking ones, they were easily fixed with a level restart. Unless you are me and spent 30 minutes on a level only to end up with the last person I needed to scare away absolutely bugged out on a chair. I could have been smart and be like, oh well, I guess I'll just have to retry the level. But no, I had to spend the next 2 hours of my life trying different methods of getting them unstuck. Oh wait, if I try to drive him to madness instead, I won't have to scare him away, he can stay bugged. Ah wait, but I don't have any ghosts that can increase madness that I can assign to this area. But what if I assign this ghost here to create a Trojan gift and then hope the gift is brought to the area to assign a ghost that has the ability to make the person mad? Oh, but wait, I need to... You get the gist. Don't be like me, just let it go. I think if I was to give any more details than what I did, I would do the game a disservice, because it's definitely a game you should consider trying this spooky season. It's honestly a real shame the original developers were disbanded, because I would have really loved to see Ghostmaster 2, Ghostmaster 3, and maybe even Ghostmaster 4, where they give you the base game with the bare minimum amount of ghosts, only to release 100 expansions that each cost £30, where they give you one more ghost per expansion, and maybe if you've been good enough also one different appearance for the ghost. It's okay though, cause they could make the base game free after 8 years. One can dream. But anyway, with that being said, I think that would be all for this video. It's a bit shorter than what I normally do, but the intention for this one was just to bring attention to the existence of this game. If you enjoyed this video, I challenge you to help me unlock the 1000 subscriber goal by clicking that subscribe button, or something. Did I really not have anything better to say for this one? Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!